my constant negotiation with myself. And now it's, if I'm, I meditate for 20 minutes every day. It's not easy sitting there for 20 minutes. Your toe itches, something, and you got to get through it. And it's just, I'm going to do a cold bath for 5 minutes every day. That's not fun. And it's just teaching your body, no, you can get through this. I'm not listening to that voice. I'm just breathing through it. I'm just getting through it. And it's been probably 15 years of that. And it translates into business, because then, okay, we're taking over IMG. I'm going to move to London for 4 months. Kids in the family is going to be on the East Coast for the summer, and it's going to be brutal. And yeah, you can do that. Or at the UFC, any of these new tasks that you take on, because you're telling yourself a story that whether it's going to be good or bad, that's not the truth. You have to just realize that thing's not the truth, and you just have to go through it. Yeah, it's not going to be easy. So what? Yeah. Who cares? Like, yes, that's part of the process. That's actually part of the interesting thing that we're all doing. So
yeah, no, I love that, because
it did start though with not eating.
Yeah, interesting.
When I started learning about what fasting does or eating windows do to your body and autophagy and et cetera, that then got your mind, okay, I can do this. And then you just start building on that. I probably am past the point of emotionally healthy, but yes, I'm way past it. But yeah.
No, but I love that, because that's super practical, right? Like, that's not an ethereal concept. The idea is you are able to put yourself through things that you didn't want to do, but that were actually good for you. And I find that that's...
I hope they're
good.
Right?
You hope you're hoping. But the idea that most of what we don't want to do, that we choose to do, is actually what helps us get ahead in life.
I said this to my kids. Success is a lot of the things we're talking about. One of it is, and that goes to kind of putting yourself, is showing up. Like, there's a voice saying, you mean I got to get on that plane for 16 hours? I got to just go have a lunch and I got to fly back from China? I don't want to do that. Okay, it said I don't want to do it, that little voice, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And learning to say, oh, that's the voice. No, I'm getting on the plane. And showing up, kind of going through it. Yeah, that's part of growing up and being successful. A lot of people are too lazy to fight that voice. And over time, when you get older, and I'm a lot older than you don't want to fight the voice. And all the things I do now is, I think, because as you get older, that voice takes over more and more. It's easy. No, don't get up at 5 o'clock and work out. No, don't do this. No. I do it. I don't care. As soon as that voice turns on, I say, I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because I feel like a lot of people say they can't hear their inner voice, and it's because that inner voice was
not listening.
It was so loud when we were younger.
Yes.
But it gets quieter and quieter and quieter, because the other voice, we kept listening to it, and it got louder and louder and louder. And so now we're having to unlearn that loud voice and
for me it started with fasting periods. I do the 24 and I do 16 and sometimes it's 48 or 60. And it's then kind of evolved into multiple things to keep it exercised that I can not listen to the voice.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need friends who push you too. I remember a few years ago, whether it was skydiving or whether it was cold plunges, as you mentioned there, it's like you need to be surrounded by a community. I've got some friends from London staying with me right now this week. And I took them to do a cold plunge with me, every day. We've been doing a hike every morning. We've been doing infrared saunas.
And they don't do that.
They don't do that. They've never done it before. And it was just interesting.
How did they do on their cold plunge?
They did really well. And they were saying that because I was like trying to coach them through it and helping them breathe. So on their first time, they did the first one of them did 4 minutes.
That's
and the other did 3 on their first time.
That's incredible.
And it was amazing.
You just have to get past the first minute.
Exactly. So it was a brilliant result. But it was that idea of your community, of people around you.
Yeah.
I love what you just said there, that you were scared at one point in your life of being figured out as not being so smart. And you said that came from your childhood, and you had ADHD, dyslexia from what I've researched. Walk me through how that idea stays even after you're starting to see success. Because I think people believe that when you become successful, when you close your big deal, when you build a company, that some of that goes away.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, did you see that documentary?
Which one? The Game Changers?
The most recent one that he did. It's just about him kind of growing up and bodybuilding.
I don't think so. I don't think I saw that.
So he talks about, he won Mr. Olympia. And everybody was telling him how great his body was, right? And they're all looking at him like, oh my God. In his head, he was saying, this is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong. And you're like, nobody would have said that to him.
Yeah.
You know, some people say it's your inner voice, your shadow. My shrink used to tell me it's your shadow. Maybe people were thinking I was successful. I was thinking about that kid that couldn't read and that during Passover didn't want to read the questions because I was the youngest and going into that that's why I hate Passover now, the anxiety I had when I was a kid. And so it's just kind of upbringing.
Yeah.
I'm no longer dealing with those issues. It's not like I'm beating my chest, oh, I'm successful, but I'm comfortable. And it's that, in a good way, drove me. Like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And, you know, any bully comes up to me, yep, we're going to get in a fight. Anybody calls me stupid, yep, we're going to get in a fight. You know, that's when I was young. And it's just held over. And then there's the point in time where you're saying, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I have to deal with these crazy, stupid fellas. Yes, you're successful. Yes, it's okay. Nothing's being taken away from you. And so that just came with age, a lot of shrinks and a lot of other therapies that we'll get into later.
Yeah. No, but I think it's really important because I think there's two things there. One is that it doesn't go away on its own.
No.
Revenge is not the solution or proving someone
kind
wrong.
Of, I would
it's
say
a good way to start.
Revenge and I would say anger. Got you to a certain point.
Yeah.
After you get to a certain point, if you stay with anger and resentment and fear, you only can get to a certain point in your life. And once you make the transition that, you know something, that's never going to get me over the hump, and you have to go a little deeper, and that's scary and takes work. When you sit in yoga, I don't know what it is. It just opens up things to come to you and the process to come to you. And that's what happened at, I don't know when it really happened, probably 12, 15 years ago, that I was on this journey to kind of find out, I don't want to be that guy that's, somebody says something, I go to code red 9. That's not healthy. That's way too much energy.
Yeah.
It's emotional energy that, is exhausting.
Absolutely. And that's what it is. It's exhausting, it's draining, and it takes away from that creative energy, the spark that's actually
to let things in that
forward.
actually need to come in, that then you can see the world differently. And like, wait a second, like, you're not seeing it through those eyes. You're seeing it through a different, like, wait a second, what about this? What about that? And you can be creative. That's a better place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you as well, I mean, you probably get asked this all the time, but I think it's important context setting for everyone who's listening. The idea of like sitting in the discomfort as you were talking about it, my wife and I are huge Entourage fans. And I can imagine that it's cool, but uncomfortable to have your image displayed in a certain way that has pros and cons. And
there was aspects of that character 100% true.
Which parts?
I was very aggressive. And, when we started the business, we couldn't compete on price because commissions were commissions. There was 5 other big players and we just had to, 1, be more creative, 2, more aggressive, and fight. So yeah, that was true to form. I mean, not all of it, but in the surrounding, yes. I don't know what Entourage would be now, that character.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And what was stuff where you were like, that's definitely not me? Like, were there anything?
Well, I don't know. To be candid, that show gave me anxiety.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of anxiety to watch. So I didn't watch a lot.
Right.
And people now watch it. I mean,
we watched it in the
pandemic, I got a lot of calls from guys I know that had kids, and the kids started watching, kids in college started watching. And I was like, yeah. I didn't see that episode. I did watch the episode, which I never did. I think he started to use a squirt gun on people. Yeah. I didn't see that. I mean, I did see that, but I didn't do that.
It's good to know you didn't use a squirt gun. Yeah, that's important. How have you harnessed, or how has your aggression matured in business? Because the reason why I raised that is because I think, we kind of swing in pendulums in the world. So if you think about business back then and how we viewed Wall Street, and even when I was growing up, like the dream was to be an investment banker. That's what everyone was becoming in London. And that was the big goal when I was a kid. And
Did you want to become one?
I wanted to become one without knowing what it was.
Right.
Yeah, right. Like, that's what happens. And I went to Cass Business School and did management science. And I was training to go off into the corporate world because that's what I thought you had to do.
Don't you remember when you were growing up? The objective was how big the stack was.
Yes.
I never had that objective.
No, same.
For whatever reason, my parents didn't, that was not the objective. It was to do well in the world and make the world a better place. All that stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of my friends, that was, how big is the stack?
Totally. Same for me. It was, I didn't grow up with a lot. My parents didn't have a lot, but they always gave in charity. They helped the community. My mom did a ton of community work. And then I obviously met monks when I was 18 years old. So like that became, my paradigm shifted massively. And I was always far more creative than anything else. And that's what I enjoyed. But I guess the question I'm asking is, I think we've gone from that very aggressive, very competitive, brash, harsh energy. And then we swing to this pendulum where everyone's like, well, no, you just got to be fully like empathetic and vulnerable and compassionate. I'm like, so how do you, so
here's what it is.
What is the middle ground balance? Because the answer is always somewhere in the middle.
Here's somebody, a really smart person, I won't say who, told me. You have to know, and this only comes with time and maturity, when you're on the field. When you're on the field, kill the other dude. When you're not on the field, you don't have to kill the other dude. For you, it's got to be a good deal. For me, it's got to be a good deal, etc. But when you're on the field, you want to win. You just have to realize when you're not on the field.
Mm.
The problem is, I think people don't realize when they're not on the field.
Mm.
And that has come over time. Like, when am I on the field? Okay, when I'm on the field, I'm playing to win. When I'm not on the field, I can be in a different mindset. That shift for me, going to fear, anger, I always thought I was on the field. And for a long time, to get the company where I wanted, I was always on the field.
Mm.
Now I don't have to be on the field all the time. And that not being on the field enables you to think properly and just let things in and grow. That gets you to other things that all of a sudden affect the field in a different way. You have different moves. It's probably how great players, as they get older, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, their bodies are not the same, but they're better players because they just know how to do it differently. So when I'm not on the field, I'm not on the field. When I'm on the field, I'm playing pretty hard.
Yeah, that's a really unique insight. I like that because I feel like that's also what challenges people in their personal relationships. Because not only are people not on and off the field in business, they don't know how to switch it off when they go home.
Yeah.
And so your wife and your kids or your husband or your partner or whoever it may be ends up getting that same treatment as you do at work because you haven't reached that maturity level of knowing how to, and it's not as easy as a light switch.
Oh, no.
Like it's not just, I'm work hat off, work hat on. It doesn't work like that.
And your partner, depending on what they do, you might be off the field. They might be on the field.
They want to be on the field.
Right? Because they're going through their thing. It's just like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So
I just got back from tour and we went to Bali for a couple of weeks just to relax with me and my wife. And it's so funny because
what does she do?
She's a vegan chef and recipe developer and incredible knows everything about Ayurveda and herbs and nutrition. And she's made me very healthy compared to what I used to be. But she's on the field right now because her career is booming. She's doing incredibly well. And it's so fun to watch. And it's so funny because I was like, we're going to Bali. And she was like, you know what? I think we're going there for a bit long. And I was like, that was me. Like I used to say that like 5 years ago.
And so it's just like, okay, it's not only your life.
Yeah.
You have two people and you just have to navigate, I'm not on the field. Okay, I got to think about this. Maybe, even though I want to be there 3 weeks, maybe it's only a week and a half.
Yeah.
And I'll just be off the field here. I'll figure out what to do.
Yeah. And I think it's hard because I think, we struggle when you've done, for other people too, when you've said things when you were on the field, it's hard for the person, especially in business, for now to view you differently when you're off the field. It's
every marriage, every relationship, every personal situation changes after 10 years. I'm not the same person I was from 95 to 2005. I'm not the same person from 2005 to 2015. I'm definitely not the same person from 15 now. And people's viewpoints of me is probably what it was in 97, 98, and let me just say something. That guy was not, he was a good guy, but he was always on the field and he was ashamed, nervous, angry fighter. Not that I'm not aspects of those things working on them, but
yeah, that changes. It's hard.
And when they come into your relationship, They have all this, now they can read everything, see everything, and like, oh, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this, dude. I'm such a gentle, nice, hugging.
Well, no, the reason why I also enjoy these conversations is because I think I struggle with that in perception too, where I feel people believe that someone who is mindful or meditative has to be a certain way at all times.
Do you know when you're on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why I love that piece of advice. Is that you said it in a way that I think makes it so easy to think about, and that's why I really appreciate it. And that's exactly what it is for me. Like, and my team knows that. They can see that when I'm in the zone and I'm not, or when I'm winning my home kit or away kit. Like, however you put it. Like,
yes,
I totally
like that home kit.
Yeah, home jersey, away jersey, right? Like, and I can feel that, and I think that you have to know that. But I think the idea is that we like to simplify people because it makes it easier for us to.
If you're going after the stack and that's the goal, right? Which is like crazy. Like,
agreed.
It's so arbitrary, the stack. You're always on the field.
Yeah.
What you don't realize is you can be happy at whatever the level of the stack is.
Yeah.
There's just a different way to think about it. And you will get to a very big stack by figuring out this first. When you're on the field, when you're off the field.
Absolutely. And I think that's the difference. I wanted to ask you the difference in success and happiness, or success and contentment, because it sounds like you've worked on both and tried to be conscious of both. How have you seen the difference, and how do you work on them?
I was never content before. Probably the first 20 years of business. I mean, I was going to prove everybody wrong. I was going to prove to myself I wasn't stupid. I was, and I was just running hard. When I say this word, that doesn't mean that I'm not in business. I'm content. And all the things I thought about that I wanted to accomplish and how I saw the world kind of played out. I'm a really lucky guy. I'm comfortable that I'm not stupid. And I got a lot more I want to accomplish because I want to accomplish it, not to get the stack any bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy doing that. That's a completely different place from the first 20 years where I had no idea. I thought about the stack and what success was in such a different way than I think about it now.
And do you think there's that brilliant quote from Jim Carrey where he said that everyone should become rich and famous and achieve everything they ever wanted just to realize that it's not the point? Do you think that there is something?
I didn't know he said that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah. And it's, I love that statement because I feel like
love that statement.
There's something about pursuing success as you see it, which may not be a perfect definition.
Right.
Experiencing some success and then going, well, wait a minute, this wasn't it. And I feel like, because you always hear successful people say, oh, it isn't it. But it's almost like, I think.
Oh, I'm happy where I am.
Yeah.
I'm really, I'm so glad that it played out. Those statements are actually accurate. Like, it's enabled me now to kind of, when I started this 12 years or whatever, to get to this place. I'm not sure I would have ever gotten to it.
Yeah, with a different mindset.
Yeah.
And in 95, you had a big accident, right? Like there was something that really woke you up.
It was 93.
93.
I was working at ICM. There was a breakfast place called Kate Manalini's. I was walking down Wilshire. It was about 3 blocks away. Coming back, and just sitting on the curb, I said to myself, I was going to the breakfast, like, wow, I got to move back from this curb. These cars could hit you. And I was not in the street. Cut to, I'm walking back from breakfast in the crosswalk right outside of where the ICM building was. And a flatbed truck didn't see me, took a left onto Wilshire, hit my left side, 9 o'clock in the morning, Friday. Guess what happens? Your life changes. You're like, life's not a dress rehearsal. Was laying in there. I just wiggled my fingers and toes. I said, okay, I'm not crippled. I was outside my body screaming. I was laying there watching myself scream. And then I just said to myself, life's not a dress rehearsal. I did a rehab because I couldn't bend my leg. And then I did a surgery on my leg. And then I did another rehab. So that was 18 months of hell. And then I said, what do you want to do? And I definitely didn't want to be at ICM. What was the phrase I used to hear when I was at ICM back in 1993? It was like, I cover myself. That's what it stood for. So there was no camaraderie, culture, anything. And so me and 3 other guys decided to start when I could be healthy, and we kind of get it in 95. On my birthday, March 29th, we let loose. So, and that was the catalyst to say, life's not a dress rehearsal. You better get to what you want to get to. And that kind of thesis is at the 20-year mark, changing how I look at life. And am I still going to be that angry guy? And, you know, all the different routes we all take in our lives to get to where the end is. So,
yeah. Did you try and change certain aspects of the culture based on that statement that you built, or did you find that?
I just wanted to treat people well, you know, inside, and share clients and communicate better. And there was a guy by the name of Phil Raskin, the first employee, and they fired him. In the Israeli army, you don't let anybody stay. You know, you go get the bodies. So I said, you're hired. Now, we had no money. We were not making any money. And I said, we're hiring you if they're firing you. And how we treat people was kind of the crucial thing different about how we did things. I think one of them. And I think it's progressed. I don't know if it's perfect now. You'll have to ask the guys running the agency right now. But I think overall, I hope people feel that way.
What was it like building something from scratch when there wasn't any money? Because I feel like it's easy to look at you now and
well, there was 2 years.
Yeah.
And
no salary because you're out on your own.
We were in a tussle with ICM over commissions, and because we couldn't take the commissions because they said they deserved it because we were in a contract. This whole and they were going to sue us for certain things, and so we had no money. I mean, we knew things we had money, but a lot of stuff was old stuff. About a year and a half, 2 years in, we settled. I might be getting dates wrong, but right around then. And then we had money. And in that period of time, the world changed. Mike Ovis left the business, who was the god, and Ron Meyer, Bill Haber. And then Gavin Pallone left this company, UTA. And a lot of shifting happened. And we had taken a couple people from CA, Marty Edelman, and we put on a bunch of TV shows that were successful. And we had money because of those, because they were going into syndication and packages. And so it was like free agency in baseball. We have money and people are like shifting, what are they doing? And we were home. We got, with just timing, and we were in the right place at the right time.
What was the hardest thing you had to do in those 2 years?
You just had to work, with no money.
Just putting the time.
Just putting the time. And you were doing 17-hour, 18-hour days. Wife was pregnant at the time, my ex-wife, with our eldest. And keep on building, and how are we going to do it? And, the five of us, I think Marty had joined, and then 2.5 years in, Patrick Weitzel had joined, and just kind of how we keep on progressing and doing it. Like none of us had ever done it before. We were all, as my father would say in Yiddish, we were all pishers, the small nothings. And so we just figured it out.
It's good to hear that.
But it wasn't like, we went from no money to, it was nothing.
Yeah.
And we were happy.
Yeah.
We were really happy because we were in our own heads. It was successful, and it was hard, but we had fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. While I was a student and before I ever started doing things online, I used to do events in my local area in London, and like 10 people would show up every week to hear me speak about spirituality, psychology, human behavior. And I loved it. I did it for 10 years before.
So wait a second, you went to school to possibly be a banker.
Yeah.
And then what, not that we're going to reverse the interview now. What was the transition to I don't want to do this? What happened in your mind or life event?
So I think life event that I met a monk. And I'd never met a monk before at school. So they would come in, we'd have speakers come in, whether it be CEOs or athletes or celebrities or former alumni or whatever it may be. And one day a monk was invited to speak at a small college session. And some of my friends were getting—
A business session?
No, not a business
session.
Just a general, And I was invited to go because some of my friends were getting into meditation at the time. This is early, we're talking about 2006, 2007. So we were doing that, and it was, and my friends were kind of getting into that space. So they were telling me to come along, and I was like, yeah, I'll go if we go to a bar afterwards. That's the kind of guy I was growing up. And so I went along.
And you weren't married at the time?
No, I'm 18 years old.
Okay.
I'm 18 years old. I'm about to start college around that time. And so I go to this event, and I hear this monk speak, and I'm kind of there going, okay, when are we going to leave? Who cares about this stuff? How does this benefit my life? And I actually walked away feeling completely just reflective, because this monk was saying that the greatest gift was to use your skills in the service of others. Like he was saying that whatever you've been given,
that was his main theme.
That was his main theme, to improve other people's lives. And it was like, I'd never heard that from anyone before at 18. And I realized that when I was 18, I'd met people who were rich and famous and beautiful.
And you thought
powerful.
that was the stack.
Yeah, but I was like, this guy seems happy. He seems content. He has something that...
At what point in the lecture did that like hit you? Because at one point you're saying, let's go get some beers.
Yeah, at the beginning I was kind of like, okay, what is he gonna say when he came out? And he's dressed in robes and he was from India, and like, I'm a kid in London. Like, there's nothing externally attractive about him. And then as he spoke, like as I actually listened to him, I was just mesmerized. And so I said to him, I just want to follow you around. So I ended up following him around for the rest of that week. He was doing events in London, homes and different things, and then at temples. And then I started visiting him in my summer and Christmas vacations in India.
Wow.
And then when I graduated from college, I went and actually lived with him as a monk for 3 years in India and the UK.
And so what did your parents say?
They were like completely like scared and worried.
Like, what's going on with our state?
Yeah, and all of our friends and family, like, he's been brainwashed. It was like, it's really interesting because, and I'll talk to this about perception. It's really interesting because everyone now is kind of like, oh, Jay, you just, this is a good story. And I'm like, dude, when I chose to become a monk, it was not a good story. People thought it was the dumbest idea of all time. Like, it was like career suicide.
Like, this poor kid,
you've been brainwashed.
What happened?
Like, what happened to this kid who got a first-class honors degree at university, straight A's, like, what is going on here? And all of a sudden, I'm taking this path.
Your parents must have freaked out.
My parents freaked out. And my extended family freaked out even more, which made my parents freak out more.
They came from India?
Correct, yeah.
So that upbringing and that...
Going back that way?
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So... But I felt called. I started listening to my inner voice when I was 14 years old, and it's been so loud ever since. I don't know any other way to go. And so for me, it was so, so loud. And so that was the shift in my trajectory where...
So you come out after 3 years. What happened?
I hoped I'd do it forever. And that I really thought I was going to do it for the rest of my life. It did not work out.
And so why?
A couple of things. One thing was like, it's super tough on your health to live communally. Like when you're living potentially sometimes with 30 people in a room, 100 people in a room, people wake up at different times. You're being woken up by everyone. The common cold, you're sharing baths, showers, like, like the space is
life.
Yeah. Everything's communal in that space. It was hard on my immune system to live in that way. Of course, I'm a kid from London. Like I didn't grow up with lots of comforts, but it was definitely more comfortable than a monastery. And then on top of all of that, I just had this honest transparency. And that's what monk teachings are meant to do. It's meant to make you self-aware. And my self-awareness was, I'm quite independent. I'm quite a rebel. Like I like doing things my way. And I feel
this is not that.
This is not that. I feel like I want to share what I've learned in this cool, accessible, relevant way.
Where the world is.
Yeah, where the world is, which is the world I come from. And if I stay here, then I'm actually going to be pretending to be someone I'm not. And so it's like, I'm going to go back and, be myself.
That's a big thought.
It was. And I had no idea what that meant then, but I just know that it was loud and that it was real and that. And
it had to happen.
It had to happen. It was, I think it's funny. Your brother said this about you. He said this in his book, Brother's Manual. The speed, danger, and risk that make other people nervous make guys like Ari serene. And I want to dive into that with you. But for me, that's what it was, that
you didn't know where it was, but you knew you had to be on that road.
Yes. And I don't know how to stop myself. I can't pretend to myself. Is where I've always been. Like I have to be all of myself, and when decisions are against the grain and no one agrees, chances are I'm on the right path. And so even when I came back, then I had the opposite, where everyone around me was like, you wasted 3 years. Look at everyone around you. They've got jobs now.
What are they saying now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it changes now. Obviously it changes now, but it's anyway.
Isn't it unbelievable? I had this, I sent this email out to the company. Most people think success is this.
Yeah.
That's success.
Yeah.
And that it's your journey.
Yeah.
And you don't know where it's still going, but it's probably going to go this way and then it's going to go that,
Yeah. How have you had the courage, going back on that same point, how have you had the courage to be open to speed, danger, and risk when other people thought, especially what I think we don't recognize is as you become more successful, as you make bigger decisions, it's not that just more doors open. Sometimes there's even more doubt because now people are like, can he get the next one right?
Most people don't want to risk it all.
Correct.
Once you get to something like, why would I risk that?
Correct.
Like, why do that? It's going to be on a perfect glide path.
Yeah.
So I've said this before in certain interviews. I don't remember exactly which one. When you're in a class and you're figuring out where to sit in the class because you think you've psychologically figured out if I sit here, the teacher won't call on you to read. And you're so anxious and you're so nervous and you're so afraid. It's not like I don't get anxious about big deals. I mean, I got really sick doing the UFC deal. Moving to London, not great for 4 months when we took over, right? Yeah, so what? I'm not nervous about those things. I don't know why. It's just my upbringing, things I went through that I could get over. So working hard, doing all the things, showing up, getting on that plane for the lunch in China and then flying back after the lunch. That's kind of how I operate my life. I don't know what my mom fed me or did and my dad, but yeah, I'm not worried about the hard work, and all of it takes hard work, as you know. And I'm not trying to prove to anybody I'm not letting their definition of success, not success, what I should do, what I shouldn't do, dictate what I want to do. Like you, I got my own ideas about what I want to do. I just keep on following them. Hopefully I keep on getting in tune with my voices, definitely listening to people in my life that I trust. But then, it's like, okay, it's time to bet. And like we just did with WWE and doing something new, and here's what we're going to do. Yeah, those are not easy decisions. And
yeah, it's really interesting because even...
but I'm very comfortable in the uncomfortable. Yes. I'm really comfortable in the uncomfortable. I think when most people don't like uncomfortable conversations, don't like to be uncomfortable in business, don't like that, I do enjoy that a lot. I like awkward. I'm comfortable in awkward. I like just saying what it is. I do not care. You can like me, not like me. I was never one of the cool guys. I'm good.
I think it was so funny because Mike Milken was sitting in your seat yesterday, just here. And it was interesting because there's this shared experience of there's a healed sense of self-worth, but then there's this embracing our own insignificance. Like you just said, like you're like, I'm also insignificant. And it's really interesting because everyone who's kind of has a settled mind.
I'm not sure people get to the second one.
But we need to.
Oh.
Why do you think we don't get there?
I've had this conversation with many people, this concept of legacy. And once you actually believe it, not just say it. Legacy. Presidents have legacies, I guess. Some entertainers have legacies. Sports stars have legacies. Business people, no, they don't have legacies. And once you get to that point and comfortable in that point, this whole concept that what's my legacy, which is a jerk off conversation, you can move past a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
We're sitting there, what's my legacy?
Yeah. It's a bad question. I agree.
It's a bad question. Like that. Yeah. That's why you're doing it?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think it comes from, I think we never get to embrace our own insignificance because we're scared of where it leads to low self-esteem. So there's that angle. But
definitely I don't have that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But the deeper angle, which is what you're raising, is that I think as humans, we're so addicted to immortality because, at least from a spiritual point of view, our consciousness and energy is immortal. And there's such an addiction to immortality and longevity that we have that for us to live after we die, we think the only way...
So here's my thought process about that. Because I am a crazy health nut.
Yeah, I know.
I do some crazy stuff.
Yeah, and I'm into it too. So
I'm really crazy. But for me, it's not about living forever. It's about being healthy while I live.
Same.
Right?
Agreed.
As long as because I see people that are older, that are prisoners in their bodies as when they get to their 60s, 70s, 80s. I'm not doing that. The best thing that could happen is it's over, would be incredible, and you die in your sleep. Like it's over. But until that point in time, I'm playing golf, I'm going on hikes, I'm surfing, I'm doing my thing. This whole thing about this whole world of, and I hack. I hack myself to do that, but it's not to live forever. And so that's the objective.
Yes. Yeah. No, I get that. And I'm totally aligned with that. I feel the same way. Like, I don't think it's...
What's the craziest thing you do for your health?
I've been recent, because I'm still young, there's certain things that people don't recommend yet. And so like, I've been talking to people about like stem cell treatments and things like that. I don't know if you've done any stem cell therapy or anything like that.
No.
But okay, so I haven't done any of it either, but everyone's always like, Jay, you're too young to start these types of things right now. But I'd say the craziest thing I do right now is same as you, like the fasting, the cold plunging, the infrared saunas, the deep rest and sleep. The meditation has been a part of my life for 17, 18
You got to push
years.
steel.
Yeah. Yes.
You got to do weights.
I had to stop that last year for I had surgery, so I had to stop. But yes, I usually do weight training.
You have to do that. You have to do stuff for your kind of CO2, your oxygen, your ability. How old are you now?
35.
Yeah, so you're right if you do now, right?
This is the time, yeah.
You got to reduce as much as you can your inflammation. You got to have gut health.
Yes, this is exactly.
And then you have to figure out how to balance your glucose.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do those things, you have 35% chance of getting to the objective of one night you just don't wake up.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you plant-based as well? Or you try
Here's
to be
what it is,
plant-based?
because I'm 62.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So I was a lectin-free vegan following Dr. Gundry's, who got me, when I had my thyroid problem, really healthy. The problem is now, because I do push a lot of steel, I do heavy cardio, I do a lot of that stuff, I have to have some protein in my diet.
Mm-hmm.
So I have moved up to probably very healthy, grass-fed, grass-finished, no corn in it, all the stuff that causes inflammation. I have moved up into probably 3 or 4 days of meat, and then the rest lectin-free vegan.
Yeah. What's the craziest therapy you've done? You mentioned earlier there was some different strange
Well,
therapies.
I take helmets from Thailand and from the UK every morning. I do light therapy every morning after the cold plunge. I mean, if I showed you the list now, you'd be like, "Oh, you've lost the plot, Ari."
No,
right?
I love it.
And
that's why you look that
here's
good.
Here's what happens though.
Yeah.
As I go down all these paths, I always call my brother Zeke.
Yep.
And I only have the following question, and then he has to do the work, and I do work too. I said, "Okay, can it kill me? Can it injure me or hurt me?" If the answer comes back no, I do it. So I started on. They're live microbes. They're microscopic. You can't see them. I drink them every morning now. I've gotten to a place where I do that. I worked with this guy from Duke, as I read an article about him, and people were like, "What are you doing?" Like and I say the great line to them and say, "Watch their facial expression." I said, "Well, they don't colonize in your system," and you can see them like their minds are. And so this goes to like, all right, I'm just going to try these things as long as it can't hurt me. The list is vast.
Yeah. That's great. No, it's great. I think this is where the world's heading. And I think everyone's looking for solutions and looking for ways. So I love hearing about it from you, and it's great. And it shows, right? I feel like you seem really vibrant, energetic, and I think that's the key, right? It's vitality. I think.
Well, but the back is not turned into a mouse that's hunched over.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Have you ever seen those?
Absolutely.
That scares me.
Yeah.
I will do anything not to, because then it's not, you're going to be a prisoner in your body.
Yeah. That's a powerful statement.
That's not where you want to be in life.
Yeah. Talking about athletic bodies, you talked about what you did with the WWE there. I remember when you first got involved with the UFC, there was a lot of like doubt as to how big it could get, I believe, or there was a bit of skepticism. How do you, when you're making a decision that's big money, big risk and danger, going back to that point, but then everyone else is like, oh, it's a lot of risk. This is like, don't know if it's going to work out. But then you're like, no, I know where this is going to go. How have you found that confidence?
The first thing that I do, I'm assuming you do it, anybody successful do it, I read a lot.
Yeah.
And I ask a lot of questions to, once I read an article, if I understand it, don't understand it, I call the person, or I call the person in the article. And that happened early on, how we started the firm. We were in the representation business, and then I said, well, we have all this business. I want to buy something that we own. I thought sports was going someplace that, with increased distribution, it was going to be more valuable. And so it was there's not many sports you can own.
Mm-hmm.
I was already in business with the UFC. Mm-hmm. We did all the work about where we could take the economics, internationally, sponsorship. It was an easy bet.
And it worked out.
Well,
it's working.
Well, the world changed on me at the time for Fox sold to Disney, so those two buyers out. Donald Trump wouldn't let AT&T buy Time Warner, so those two buyers are out. And the rest of it, nobody else wanted it at the time because they had already had too much service. So it was nerve-wracking for a while, but then the world changed.
Yeah. it's fascinating to me because I think that everyone in their micro universe or any universe is always having to make tough decisions that a lot of people around them don't understand. Whether someone listening to this right now is trying to start a new health regime, whether someone's trying
there's not a pill.
Yeah.
In anything we do, as we now know, there's not like, because I don't know about you, people come to me, so what's the one thing? One thing.
There is no one thing.
I do 17 things. And it's grown from 10.
Yep.
There's
I don't like being asked the one thing at all.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why the questions I'm asking you, I'm fascinated by the thought process.
Well, you're in our lives. We're just gathering information, gathering thought process, gathering perspectives, and then we go hunting for things that we want to do, and where we think the world's going. And then once you get to that point, like, okay, you talk to a lot of people, you have to, for me, talk to investors, et cetera, and then you're launched. And then there's, I think, I might get this story wrong, Disney, when they bought Cap Cities, which had ESPN, they valued ESPN at 0 at the time, and when it came out, it was the most valuable asset. Again, success, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
You can do all the work you can do, and then all of a sudden, get into the pool, the water's warm. Dude, you got to start swimming.
Yeah. And that's what I think. I think there is so much pressure around making the right decision as opposed to making your decision right. Right? Like, as in I think a lot of people spend a lot of time going, is this the right decision? Is this the right thing to invest in? I'm like, well, make the decision and then make it right. It's just the way we started it. How many people can handle change and fear you just have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. And Yeah, absolutely. What have you seen? You've worked with talent. I know you still do in some intimate ways.
I work with a lot of talent.
Okay, you still do. All right. I've heard you say, but I was thinking but you're working with the business as well as much as exactly. Yeah. So when you're working with talent, what have you seen has been because I think it was interesting. I was saying when I was young, everyone wanted to be an investment banker. Now we know in America, most people want to be influencers, creators, something to YouTube or what have you seen have been the best choices that talent have made long-term for their successful careers, or where are some of the mistakes people have made? I think
most talent now realizes they're the asset, and it's kind of moving towards them. And a lot of them are starting to try and figure out, like, okay, what does that mean? Can I own other businesses? Can I get equity? Whether it be Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne Johnson, Mark Wahlberg, these people, right? And I think that's been at that level. We're going to go through a whole iteration right now with AI that is going to, I think, I don't know what it's going to do, but it's going to transfer one more time our business, I think, in a good way, in that I think people are going to have more free time than ever. They're going to want movies. They're going to want entertainment. They're going to need more. I think that we're going to go down to a permanent 4-day work week. Governments are going to need it for full employment. And that means the weekend is starting on Thursday night. And that means that's 3 days where people need personal interaction. And so the value proposition, especially as distribution changes, you're going to go to 6 Wi-Fi. You're now seeing more distribution, Rumble picking up shows, Roku. It's just expanding and expanding. Our job is to create a place where our talent can create, really for the first time, even more exponentially become their own brands and own businesses and do things that they, not just a movie, not just a television, other things. And we'll be successful for them, and they'll be successful as long as we can create this kind of perfect architecture. And we're not perfect at it yet, but we're getting better at it. And those are the clients that we want to be in business and across podcast, all the different things. And that's the hardest thing that we're trying to build now in this transition. But that's where I think the world is going.
Interesting. 4-day work weeks.
I think I think
even if it's unofficial.
I don't know. Governments, I think, because of AI, and I'm saying probably in 2, 3, 4 years, for full employment, and they're going to need it for social non-unrest. You're going to have, and you have COVID. That's almost a 4-day work week now because people don't go into the office on Fridays. Mm-hmm. That means Thursday night. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the entertainment. That's the objective, and so that's what we've been building, like events, Madrid Open, Barrett Jackson, art show, etc. And that's where I think the world's going, sporting events, etc. So I think entertainment's going to become more valuable than it's ever become. I don't think will be as disrupted by AI. There'll be some disruption in it.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about that because, I think people are really looking for more alternatives and options, especially for that human connection point you were talking about. How have you found it as a leader to have that, where you've gone from everyone being in an office, in an agency, to then people working from home? Like, how have you navigated that to continue that, like, creativity?
Well, listen, we have, we had done this a long time ago. We just restarted. We did a book club, not the way we used to do, with Rick Rubin on his new book. We had a lecture on anti-Semitism. We're trying to get people in groups talking about big issues to kind of keep the company together from, we're in, 37 countries, so that people there's a communal, and we're going to start a big retreat again, which we hadn't done in a lot of years because of COVID. So that's the way we foresee doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's...
keeps, hopefully.
Yeah.
And we just have to keep on working on how we keep that connection ongoing in the company.
Yeah.
Because you do want, the architecture, right? You do want the licensing group talking to the motion picture group, talking to the on location group to create an experience. And you want all those pieces. And the outside world and the clients is asking for it too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we have to.
Yeah. I worked with so many organizations before and during mainly the pandemic, and then even after. And the transitions I've seen are incredible, because whether a company was growing rapidly, so I was working with Zoom, they were having the best success as a company financially, but it was like they had to scale like what was a small organization really quickly.
Overnight,
and so like the burnout that comes with that is really, really hard. And then you had other organizations, obviously, like travel, entertainment, live entertainment, down, struggling with that and handling morale. And so it's really interesting to see how they both bounce back, because it was hard either way. And it's really you always think, they're successful. They don't. It's hard. Success is hard.
I promise you, it's hard for them now.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. It's so complicated, and
it's really complicated.
Yeah, success is hard and failure is hard.
Running a business, one of them.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. What have been some of your what would you say the last few years has been one of like your biggest misses or your biggest failures that you look back and go, that taught me a lot?
Well, I'll say the following, because it was a success, and it was only success because I thought we had to like shut everything down. And Dana White at the OC said to me, we're not shutting down. I got scared, and he like slapped me across the face. No, we're going. And then he said, give me an island. And, I was like, my brother's a doctor. He's telling me where the world's going. I'm like, and he was like, and he was just driving that train. And so we got him an island, and he did everything else. And kind of just remind me like, yeah, it's nerve-wracking, but don't be scared.
Yeah.
And he was like amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like on the other side of that fence. And I said, and that's why I have a great partner. He's an incredible partner.
Yeah.
But I for the first time, got really scared. And he just said, no, we just have to go. And we're going to take all the heat for it. And there was a lot of heat against him. But we did it. If we didn't have that, the whole company would have been tanked. Because we needed the ESPN deal to continue to go. We needed to put on fights. And his courage, like dragging me along, was incredible.
The industry today, I feel like cancel culture, heat culture, like it's got hotter basically, because there's more people to cancel. There's more things that people are sensitive or care about or believe in, and values. Like how do you as a talent agent think about artists going through that? Because I'm sure you've seen over the years, so I coach a lot of people in the music business, actors, like sports people. I coach so many people in the industry.
Don't jump in the water. Because most people want to respond. The news cycle's so fast. Unless you've committed murder and something, whatever, let it go. The thought process is, I got to jump in and respond. Then the story just continues. The news cycle, I used to say it's like one day. It's less than a half a day now. And if you just get out of this emotional mindset that you have to respond and they have to know, and really? Nobody's even like, it's over. Don't respond. And that's kind of, I think, the hardest thing for any artist.
Yeah. How have you worked with, because I'm guessing you almost by job have to become a coach sometimes to the people you work
this
with.
This is my line of like, why are you responding?
Yeah.
Don't. Like, they want you to respond because then they keep on getting the click.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm not on social media.
Yeah.
I won't do it. I won't. I mean, I get it, you know.
Yeah,
sometimes my kids send it to me.
Yeah.
My wife sends it to me. I don't look at it.
What's something that you're trying to immerse into your children? Like